You're rolling? Okay, welcome everyone. This is our final candidates forum. I want to thank you all for being here when there's allegedly another forum going on somewhere. For the record, this was scheduled first, wasn't it?
Yep,
Mark?
absolutely.
They copied us.
Yep.
All right. Before we get started, I want to ask everyone to put your phone on silent mode. Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Jack.
Just make sure we don't have this. I don't know. Can people hear this out there?
Not yet.
Hello. I guess I have to get it up close. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm sure that I have to go and watch the other meeting after I get through this one. But so with all that's wonders of videotape or videotape. That's even outdated nowadays. Anyway, I was told today by a professional public reporter that a person is a success as an interviewer if both sides think he is a supporter of the other side. So I hope to be successful tonight. So I'm not really for or against either candidate, but I have to ask the question nonetheless. First thing I'd like to do is let the two candidates introduce themselves. Holly, let's start with you.
Thank you for coming tonight. I'm Holli Giffin. I'm a longtime resident of Burien. I first moved to Burien in 1996. At that time, I was attending school at the University of Washington at night and working full-time during the day. Although I left Burien in 2000 to attend law school in Spokane, I saw that Burien was starting to transform and make positive changes. So in 2004, I was working as a public defender in King County. I returned to Burien. I chose Burien because I love this hamlet. I love our community feel. Alas, we have a long way to go. Right now, it feels like all the positive changes have come to a halt, and that's why I'm running. I want Burien to focus on economic viability by erasing onerous hurdles and make it easier for small and local business to open. Burien needs to understand the importance of investing in our neighborhoods and parks. Focus education on community block watches combined with a stronger police presence will keep our citizens safe. We also need to support a robust art community, as that will also aid in our economic viability. This is not a stepping stone for me. I have continually lived in Burien since 2004, and I don't have any plans on leaving. We need a council that is committed to working together so that Burien can make positive forward progress. We have an opportunity to get Burien back on track and move forward, and that opportunity is with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Bob Edgar.
It's working.
Brilliant, great, thank you. Hello, I'm Bob Edgar, and I'm running for position 2 on Burien City Council. I'd like to thank Scott and the B-Town Blog crew for hosting this event, Pat for filming it, and the audience for attending. Thank you. I stand for open government, sound fiscal management, and robust economic development. It has been a privilege and an honor to serve Burien citizens for the past 4 years as deputy mayor and as council member. I have 2 major goals for Burien. One is a safe, vibrant city with a small town flavor that supports Burien residents, families, and businesses for the long term. And a city where residents and neighborhood voices are listened to with respect and reflected in government decisions. I have lived in Burien for 36 years. My community service to you and to Burien includes creation of the Salmon Creek Greenbelt, director for Shoalard on the Sound Community Club, a founding member of Sustainable Burien, establishing the first Burien Community Gardens, member of Neighbors of Seahurst Park, participation in Burien's Clean Sweep, involvement with local Boy Scouts, committee member for the Salmon Creek Neighborhood Plan. I dressed up as Bert the Salmon to promote salmon recovery. I've participated participated in the Strawberry Festival and numerous other activities during the years. I work in corporate education. I have an AA and BA degree with an MBA in Information Systems and a doctorate from Seattle University. I am running a mini campaign that is 100% funded by individual donors. 90% of those are Burien residents.
I was going to ask both of you to answer this question, and I will start with you, Holly, and that is, before running for the council, did you devote time and efforts into any of the city's various activities to better the community? Have you been a city volunteer at any level?
I have volunteered at the Empty Bowls, and most of my volunteer work, though, has been on a more regional county level. I've volunteered at Operation Night Watch on numerous occasions. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's a soup kitchen in Seattle, and it opens its doors at 10 o'clock at night. That's when dinner is served. It's open until, I believe, 11:30, and then everyone has to leave. So, also working as a public defender, most of my work there was with juvenile court, and that was the only court that serves this community. And so I have a lot of experience working with the children of our community.
You've already listed quite a few things, Bob, if you want to add anything?
Sure. Prior to becoming on the council, I did spend many opportunities speaking in front of the council on numerous events and activities, specifically when we're looking at the restoration and keeping the keeping Citrus Park protected from the critical areas, protected from the shoreline, from the wetlands and steep slope, because there was a development happening upstream.
Let's start with another question for both candidates, and again I'll go back with you, Holly. What is the biggest need you see for Burien and for the city council? I don't mean from the state or from the federal government, but from the city government. What is the biggest and the thing that you would be the most interested in getting going as soon as possible?
I believe that we need to focus on our economic viability. We need to look at our processes, procedures, permitting processes, ordinances, in order to make it easier for small and local business to open. We have some very, I think, outdated policies, and I think all of those things need to be revamped and actually made personalized to Burien.
Can you give us some examples?
One of the things is the parking mitigation fees. I believe those are really onerous for small business owners. I believe that we need to look at changing that. And there's things along those lines to help small business.
Before I was on the council, I expressed the need for the city to have an economic development plan. As recently as last year, we finally adopted an economic development plan. As part of that, we hired Chris Craig as an economic development specialist to assist Dan Trimble on the recruitment and retaining of businesses. And we also hired Katie Treefly as a communications specialist, and part of her job was to help market Burien. The other thing I pushed for the last couple of years has been a tool that the city could use to help promote the city in a positive light. This magazine, Burien magazine, was one that I pushed for 2 years, and with Katie's help, the city finally published the first one in August, and you can expect to see another one in November. I think that the city is on the move. You can see activity in Town Square with the construction of a couple of buildings. The Highway Medical Center is also building a new building down 160th and 1st Avenue. The Occupational Skills Center has a $19.4 million fund to build a new health sciences service complex. And we're also exploring development of businesses in the Nera. I think we have an exciting future ahead of us.
A lot of people complain or comment or remark upon the parking ordinance, and I'd like to have you continue, Bob. Is that something that can be changed or should be changed in your opinion? And then I'll come for your follow.
The parking problem is something we can look at. However, parking is not a problem across most of Burien. It's relatively easy to have a lot of parking. It's just primarily in a couple of areas where it's a problem. People in the past have been used to parking in front of the business and walking straight to it. As we look at growing the economy and new businesses and competition for people to get into businesses, people are going to have to be more comfortable about walking distances to get to those businesses that they would like. At the same time, we have a couple of parking lots that are not being used. The municipal parking lot is empty most days, and there is space in the transit center parking lot. As the city grows in the future, we may need to look at some sort of parking structure or parking idea and how we fund that, but that's still to be determined. A couple years ago, a fellow council member and myself spent a week talking to small businesses in the city, surveying them to find out what were things that they needed, what were impediments to their success and their survivability, and one of the things was parking. As a result, the parking component was added to the adopted economic development plan, and it's going to be addressed in the mobility study.
You mentioned a few minutes ago, Bob, that the finally got to the economic development plan. But you know, as someone who goes to video land, at least every council meeting, it certainly took a long time. There was certainly a lot of debate. That and on the city council's meeting rules. Did we really need to spend? I think I came up to about 18 hours on those two items, and I could be way off, but that's about what I could come up with. Did we really need 18 hours to come up with an economics plan and to figure out how the council holds its meeting?
I think the biggest challenge we've had in the last 4 years is the company's gone through big change. And I don't mean small change, big change. We have over 60% of the council member turnover. That's 4 members. At the same time, during that time period, we had 2 city managers. And we also went through 4 city attorneys. As groups develop, they go through 4 different stages: forming, storming, norming, and performing. All groups go through that, those phases. Even when you get new members, you need to start over somewhere and work your way through to the point of being performing. At the same time, the guidelines that we had were not revised or updated for a number of years. And we had to gain agreement between the existing council members on how to operate as a team. There were some council members that were resistant to following rules, and some that were stuck in the storming stage. It took longer than I would have liked, but it needed to happen. Good government needs good infrastructure to operate smoothly.
Holli, I presume you've been looking at some of these council meetings and have seen how the process is. How do you think that it's gone, and how would you like to see it change?
I feel like it's been very frustrating watching council meetings over the last year, which is one of the reasons why I also chose to run. I believe the council has wasted far too much time on basic meeting procedures and not getting any actual work done. My experience as a public defender, I'm often in situations where I'm working with people that don't agree with me. I'm used to that. I'm used to being able to work with them on a civil level and coming to some sort of solution and compromise. And I think that I would be able to do that in a much faster pace. And a lot of those procedural issues that they were combating, I think, should have been done in executive session and not in public council meetings.
One of the issues that has been a noisy one in the past year or so is the so-called Ordinance 621, 606, 621. I'm sure you both know what that is. I'd like to know whether it should should go or it should stay, and if you think it's worked or not. I'll start with you, Bob.
Thank you. Last year, the police requested a tool for handling nuisance trespass behavior without sending people to jail. The council ultimately passed that ordinance, and I voted for it. It is a progressive model, it has progressive steps. The intent is not to immediately send someone to jail, but to have them work through their behavior. The police have reported benefits, and business has also reported benefit from that. We need to keep our parks and public spaces safe for all residents to use. The target of the ordinance is nuisance trespass behavior.
Well, I believe that ordinance has put Burien in a really bad light nationwide. Also, I believe there were alternatives already in place that could have been utilized first. Were already trespass statutes on the books that the police could have used. Business owners can always request a person to be trespassed. I don't believe that those steps were taken. The prosecutor's office that we contract with for criminal cases can always decline to file charges or impose a fine instead of jail time. There were several, I think, alternatives that could have been used prior to enacting an unconstitutional ordinance. And I think that we should have looked into some of those things first.
So you would vote to keep it if that came up to the vote?
No, I would vote to repeal it.
You would vote to repeal it?
Yes.
I just want to be clear. Would you replace it with anything?
I believe there's already statutes that take care of those behaviors, so we wouldn't need to replace it.
No response?
I would continue to support our police in the use of that tool.
There have been a lot of people who have come before the council, have written and had other conversations concerning the need to have more police. As the city already spends over 50, it's close to 56%, I think, of the city's budget on policing. It's up in that neighborhood, but do we have any more money that we could spend on police, or would you favor raising taxes to get more police officers? We'll start with you this time.
I think that we would have to look at the budget and see if we could increase the police force. We contract with the county for our police presence, and we would also need to look at our contracts with the county to determine whether or not we can get a stronger police presence without hiring more officers, and if there's different ways we can do that. I also think that we need to bring our contracted prosecutor and our contracted public defenders to the table to find out what kinds of cases are being filed and which ones aren't being filed, and determine if there can be cutbacks made in certain areas. But I do think that Burien as a whole is asking for a stronger police presence, and I think we need to look into ways we can do that. And if we have to raise taxes, I think that should go to a vote of the people.
Public safety is imperative for all cities, including Burien. We need to make sure we have our city is safe for children, residents, businesses, as well as visitors. True, the prime focus of the budget for Burien is over 50% for public service. On the other hand, the police have taken some alternative methods to helping their presence on the street. They recently started 410 shifts, and this allows them to overlap shifts so that during the heaviest need for police, there's more police physically on the street. The other thing they did is they reconstituted the bicycle patrols so that the police would be more apparent, especially in the downtown core area, to residents. In their presentation to the council, they did report that there wasn't no major crime increases, but there were still the high incidents of trespass, nuisance trespass behavior. I'm in support of the police. I think they do a good job. I think in order to consider expanding more than 50%, we need to look at some alternative sourcing revenue. In the future, we may need to get funding from economic development. The purpose of pushing on economic development is to diversify our revenue streams so we have more funds to pay for those items that we think the city should provide. I would also add, as far as the public safety component, the community can help. Join the block watch. I'm part of the block watch. And make sure your block watch starts before you have an incident in your neighborhood, not after. If you need help starting one, contact the police. We're more than helpful in coming out and helping you set up a block watch.
I would just like to say that I also support block watch, and we do need to educate our community on how to set up block watches and have stronger block watches in all neighborhoods.
You both are residents of Burien, of course, and couldn't be running for this office. You have indicated that you've been there for many years, and you have been off and on for many years. What do you work in the city of Burien, each of you? Bob first?
No, I do not work in the city of Burien. I work for a large aerospace company in the region.
It's a large region. Holli?
Currently, I am unemployed. I just recently lost my job. I was laid off because there's not enough business. So I am currently looking for a job. If anyone's hiring.
Well, you're a lawyer. They ought to be able to find you something to do. You've been a public defender, have you not?
I was a public defender from 2004 until 2011. Prior to that, I volunteered as a public defender from 2002 to 2004.
Thank you. What is the most important thing that I asked you what was the most important thing for the city of Burien, but what is on your agenda list as being the most important thing you want to see passed in the city of Burien? We'll start with you.
For me, it's still the economic viability. We really need to work on updating all of our ordinances and permitting processes to make it easier for small and local business. We really need to increase our small and local business base. We can't survive on CBS alone. We need to focus on filling the vacancies on 152nd, but we also have to think about 153rd. That street needs to be revitalized. We also need to think about the vacancies in the Bartels development. With Staples moving over to Safeway, there's a gigantic vacancy there, plus all the new buildings there have been vacant for many years. Retail vacancies invite vagrancy. We need to focus on getting business to Burien so that we can have a viable economic base so that we won't have the problem with vagrancy.
Right before that.
I still fall back on future development and economic development. The city of Burien already has an economic development plan. We need to accommodate growth at the protection of the integrity of neighborhoods and green spaces. The current plan has us looking at densifying our residential areas and most of our new growth into the downtown core along Anbaum and along First Avenue, thereby protecting the residential neighbors. Moving more business into the near area. I would like us to consider exploring the use of getting a hotel, but that would only if we could have an investor, can be found that we can work with an investor. I think another need that we have immediately is some sort of Class A1 office space to attract businesses that are looking for good offices.
What is going to be the effect? What is going to be the effect of the two giant buildings being built right by City Hall? What is that going to be on the area? Maybe they will fill up a little faster than that first building did. I'll start with you.
Impact. impact is going to be that when the town square gets built up, we'll have 400 new residents in the area. Part of what I'd like to see also occur in the area is putting in a community activity center. Back in 2004, the city residents were promised an activity center. In fact, in the 2008 survey, over 61% supported a bond measure of sorts to help build it. However, the cost, at the time, the council postponed it to sometime in the future due to the economic downturn. With 400 new residents, as well as existing residents that we have in the city, there's a need to make sure that our children, our youth, our families, senior citizens have a place to have for recreation. I also think that part of the problems we've had around City Hall and library have been in part that after-school activities and weekend activities are not available for youth. We need a place to really provide opportunities for positive activities. It promotes healthy life and healthy lifestyles, and it's also an economic development component. It's something we must invest in.
I actually agree with that. We do need a place for people to go. We especially need a place for children to go after school, seniors to go during the day if they need a place to go, and I would fully support a community civic center. With that in mind, I believe with 400 new residents in downtown, we also need to think about what they need in terms of everyday essentials. We need to think about trying to persuade more boutique retailers so that people don't have to go to South Center. I would fully support a boutique hotel with a conference center. I want Burien to be a destination. It would help our economic viability if we could get business conferences here instead of at CTAC.
I also like the
Okay. The biggest issue in the last, I don't know whether this works or not. I'll talk loud. The biggest issue in the last year, or rather the noisiest issue in the last year, was the homeless problems. And it's gone to other cities. CTAC has had a bit of attention to it. Des Moines is now about to go for its first homeless ordinance. We've had one in the city of Bucks in Burien for 10 or more years. But the issue is still, are we bad news for homeless people? Are we against homeless people? Start with you, Bob.
I think the homeless people, the homelessness issue is a lot bigger than Burien itself. It's something that Burien cannot address alone. We need the collaboration between the state, county, and local cities to address this problem. While Burien has set aside funds for social services, and they also increased them during this biennium for the current budget, there is still more funds that are needed. From the county, a bulk of the funds from the county are directed to Seattle. This needs to change. We also need to look at collaboration between the churches and nonprofits for the services they can provide for that population. Currently, police, offering youth services, and Transform Burien refer people who have the need for services to those providers, both inside and outside the city. I would consider supporting the state adopting a plan similar to the Lloyd-Pendleton plan that is being used in Utah.
Are we bad news for homeless?
Well, I actually believe with just about everything Bob just said. Homelessness isn't an issue that any one single city can conquer on its own. We need to work with our sister cities, we need to work with our regional partners, we need to work on a state level, and possibly even find out if there's any federal levels that we can work with. I believe that Utah and Arizona have made really great strides in some of their models, and I believe that we should consider looking into some of those things. We have some vacant elementary schools that I don't know if they would be a viable option, or if we could work out something with the school district to use some of those for places for people and services for people to go. I believe that we don't have enough services in Burien to accommodate the vulnerable population that we do have.
Would you, either one of you, believe that we should open up some of our parking lots, open areas and so on, for temporary facilities, for maybe camps, tent camps and that kind of thing? Let's start with you.
I'm actually not in favor of tent cities or temporary locations. What I would like to see is everyone have 4 walls and a ceiling and indoor plumbing and running water. It seems to me a basic human right to have a safe place to live.
How would you provide that? If the money doesn't have, the city doesn't have the money for that sort of thing.
Right, like I said, we need to partner. There's no one city that can handle it. It's bigger than one city. We need to partner on a regional, a statewide, even a federal level. We need to talk to our sister cities. We need to work out things with, and be creative about getting resources. I mean, Utah and Arizona have used models where they provide housing without condition. And once a person is stable in a house, then they end up getting the services they need.
Actually, part of the Utah model does have conditions on housing, and part of it is that when you're chronically homeless, you're not just the wannabe homeless or temporary homeless. And the other is that you are you're expected to pay for a portion of your rent, and you also work with a caseworker. So it's a supervised model.
What do we need to do?
It needs to be regionally approached.
One of the problems that many of the cities have found is that when Seattle closes down areas, they come south. All 3 of the cities that I'm familiar with are the 3 neighbors of Burien have the same problem. Is that maybe working with the partners, as you suggest, a way to maybe have a regional facility? For example, Ballard is likely not to take the homeless center that has been proposed by the city there. Guess where? They'll come south. Oh, I'm sorry.
To answer your previous question, I am against tent cities, car lot cities, car lot camping, and camping in parks. So that was, and with regard to the migration south, I think that, again, it's a regional issue that we need to look at. If for some reason there is Burien is forced to take to participate in some manner, we may look at an area over in the Nira area where that might be an area that might facilitate a temporary facility, or not even a facility, a temporary place.
Crash zone. Basically, more people are going to be forced to come from the north to the south. And now what you talked about is a bigger problem than anything. Are you willing to see the city of Burien joined into some kind of a group? There is no group right now. And Seattle doesn't have any. They just say, go south, folks, and there they come.
Yes, I think we do need to work with our sister cities, and we need to work with the region as a whole. We can't, no one has this one single solution. We have to work together as a team. And our sister cities also need support. We need support. We have to work together as a team.
What about the proposal that's floating around all over the country now that started in CTAC to raise the minimum, and it's now big in Seattle, to raise the minimum wage to $15? How do you both stand on that?
I'm in favor of having the state determine the minimum wage for the state, and all cities comply.
I believe minimum wage is a statewide issue. I would support a $15 minimum wage statewide. Also in Burien, I would only support that for businesses of 100 or more people. I don't believe our small local businesses have the resources or the funding to be able to support a $15 minimum wage at this point.
When the city of Burien recently started moving toward having different, I guess I'm really having trouble trying to comment about the way the city council operates. It operates as us against them. Is there a way in your mind that as a new council member you could try to create a more of a homogeneous organization so we could work together instead of constantly? Part of the problem is there are two sides.
My goal would be to have a council that is committed to working together, and I have experience, vast experience working with people that don't always agree with me. So I think that I can use that knowledge and those skills to be able to work with any council member, even regardless of whether or not they agree with me, to come up with a solution where we can both at least get a little bit of what we want.
Actually, I found out that I don't have any problems working with fellow council members. It's the process of getting us all to work together. And I think even come this November, when we have a new council member join us, we're still going to have to go back through the forming, storming, norming, and performing exercise to make sure everybody gets on board.
I think we're going to let the audience ask some questions right now. I'm kind of running out of questions. I'm trying to answer these quickly. So, anybody have any questions in the audience? Sir?
This is for both people. With the geographical makeup of diversity in the Burien area, would you consider changing the voting areas of council members to districts?
I would not. Burien is small enough for the council members to represent everybody. I think the districting issue is something for larger areas. I would be opposed to dividing up the city into districts.
The recent annexation of North Highline, I believe that we want to ensure that their voice gets heard. So if we had a council member that was from that area, I don't think that it would be necessary to consider districting at that time, but I think it's something that we might have to consider at some point.
That opens up the question of something called the north part of North Highline, called White Center to some people. Its annexation has been rejected by Seattle, and it's been rejected by Burien, and the county executive and the state legislature want it to be in the city somewhere. It's too little to be in its own city. So what do you think is the solution to there? Burien now has taken annexation off the table. Would you consider putting it back on the table if the right offer came along?
I was not for annexation, and I'm still not for annexation of area-wide. We need to respect the vote and the voice of the area-wide residents who voted against it. I would prefer that we had used our resources in the city of Burien to build a more vibrant city and focus in that direction.
I believe the voters have spoken, and I don't think it's something that we can approach again without a new vote and a new voice from the people.
Any other questions?
Seattle area is supposed to grow by 1 million people. I don't know where they're all going to go. I think you're talking about growth of 1 million people in Puget Sound. How are you going to handle growth in Burien? And I'm particularly interested in transportation. How are we going to get people to work? What is your experiences with working with mass transit and understanding of how Burien moves around?
That's an interesting question. Recently, the Regional Transportation Agency came to Burien and it didn't have any ideas at all. So, well, we'll start with you.
Part of managing growth, I think, is going to be incumbent on the council to determine how we handle it. We need to be able to accept growth and have places for people to live, but at the same time, one of the reasons that people like to come to Burien is our small town atmosphere, our green spaces, so we have to be able to balance the growth with the protection of those green spaces, as well as protecting the integrity of the residential neighborhoods so they maintain their character.
Buses and transportation. Sound Transit said they had nothing for us.
Well, the city of Burien does have a master transportation plan, and we're in the process of introducing a mobility study. We currently have a transit center for Metro, and we like to work with Sound Transit to get future transportation. But the key to economic development and livability is transportation, the ability for people to move easily around the city, regardless of their age or the physical disability conditions. At the same time, we need to make sure that we have, there will still be need use for cars. The city of Burien's geography is such that it's not totally walkable for all of them. And at the same time, transportation needs to be such that we connect people to work travel within the city, but also connect with those outside cities so that not only our people can go easily out, but our visitors can come in. And so one of the things we're looking at is working with the transit group to look at running transit line, Sound Transit through West Seattle to Burien to SeaTac.
Follow up with you on that question is, I'll speak to you in just a moment. Getting from SeaTac Airport to Burien is close if you have a car. If you had to go by public transportation, it's not easy. I, for example, live in West Seattle. Getting to Burien means I have to go downtown Seattle, stand on the street corner for half an hour, and then get a bus to Burien. Those problems can be worked out now, you see.
What we're currently working on is the city manager has written a letter and explained the need for the next phase of funding to really consider having a line that goes directly from West Seattle through Burien into the airport, so that it's easy for West Seattle people to get to Burien or the airport, and it's easy for them to get back without going on a roundabout way.
I think we need to be at the table with Sound Transit. We need to have more viable transportation options for our residents, and we need to have a presence there, and a strong presence, and we need to really truly fight for additional transit options.
Can I ask you a question? Sure. I wanted to talk about the people who live in North. Am I here? Is that?
There you go.
There. Anyway, I'd like to talk a minute about the people that live in North. We hear a lot about our sister cities, and they're all south of Burien. What about those of us that live in North Highline? Our nearest city is really White Center. And I haven't heard anything about how we're going to be working together with the people that live in what's now unincorporated King County. And I also wonder why we even took away the PAA that would give you, the board, the council, a little more heft when you go to negotiate about things like transportation and where people live. All the people that are coming south, where are they coming? They're not coming down to the center of Seattle. They're coming into the unincorporated area as it exists now. And that is part of my neighborhood. And that's why the question about where we get our representation on this council is an important one.
You live in the city of Burien?
I do live in the city of Burien. I was in the incorporated area. But there's the rest of my community who live right across the street from me that is being, you know, we're living in no man's land because there's not that kind of attention given to that part of Burien now.
Well, when I talk about sister cities, I actually am also talking about White Center and Seattle even. They are sister cities as well, so is South Park. We're all regionally one giant neighborhood. I agree that there needs to be representation for the North Highline area. If there's not a council person from that area, then I think that the council does need to consider districting so that there can be a voice for that area.
Thank you.
I'm not sure what the question was, but if representation of people in North Highline, which is the area that's unincorporated, we have to be careful that the city boundary ends at a certain position, and we can't necessarily speak for them. We can work with them, but I don't think we have the obligation to explain and run how they do their businesses out there.
You have an obligation to me because I am a Burien citizen. And I see the houses that are not being looked at, or people that are not following.
Are you
any of the
recommending
rules.
that they take foreclosed houses and somehow making them available for
Yeah,
homeless?
things like that
That's
that would make our community
complicated
look
issue.
better.
Talk to Seattle.
Yeah, that's all over Burien and many other cities in the U.S. But the issue with vacant homes is beyond really the control of the city. Municipalities, most of those are owned by mortgage companies, so it's an issue of working together with mortgage companies to either clean those up, get them, sell them, but they have to dispose of those. The city can't take that on.
Well, I understand you have some experience with both law and with real estate, so what do you think? Can we start asking the banks to let these houses be used for homeless people?
I think that would be up to the banks, and I don't know if that's something that the city can control. The one thing the city can control, though, is a stronger code compliance and ensuring that the banks are actually maintaining these houses in a proper manner and getting them sold faster.
This is targeted kind of at Holli, something you said earlier. See if I can paraphrase correctly. I think you said you were frustrated with the time it took the current council to do things, or they weren't getting things done. It was taking way too long. Am I echoing correctly what you said?
Well, I feel like they spent way too much time arguing over policies and procedures of how a meeting is going to be run instead of actually focusing on working and getting work done.
Okay, I thought I heard some concern about how long it was taking. And then we've all...
That may have come from me.
Okay, we've all heard you say you want us to partner with the other cities, the county, the state, even the federal. I see that as a contradiction. I'm hoping you can explain that. How can we possibly get more done working with more people?
Well, I think there are certain issues where we have to work with our regional and city neighbors because I don't think that Burien alone can handle it, such as homelessness. Homelessness is an issue that can't be solved on the city level. It has to be solved on a regional level. So I think we have to. There are certain issues that require multiple partners.
In addition to that, other things that we're looking at working with other cities are things like public works. Oftentimes the equipment that we use isn't used every day of the year, but it can be shared. And the facility that they're stored in can be shared. So we're looking at regionally working with other cities to address items like that.
My question is centered around crime and safety. And I heard Bob mention that he's a member of a Block Watch. And Holli, you mentioned the Block Watch program. Are you a member of the Block Watch program?
My neighborhood doesn't actually have a Block Watch program. There's an adjoining street that does have a Block Watch program. My street doesn't actually have its own. I have been to meetings with my neighboring streets, though, and the neighbors on my street have been invited to the neighboring streets.
Okay, so you also mentioned about getting the word out to the community about the Block Watch program. And it is a very effective program. I'm actually one of the steering committee members for the city for the Block Watch program. We go to all kinds of events in the city to get information out. We have Block Watch meetings. So we are getting the word out. It's unfortunate that people usually wait until something has happened in their neighborhood to form a Block Watch. That's too late. So I would encourage you, if crime and safety is indeed important to you, that you contact Nikki Moralja and get a Block Watch signed up.
Thank you.
Someone went before the council just recently and said that was difficult. They couldn't find out how to do it. Then
Not at all.
later on that it was easy.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all difficult. You could even just walk into the precinct and they'll point you in the right direction. There's 5 members that sit on the steering committee, and any of us are willing to go out and do a Block Watch meeting for anyone.
Any
So,
comments from either one of you? Anybody else have a question? There's someone over here.
Yeah.
No one seems to mention much about environmental issues, and you don't need to preach about it. I think everybody understands we've got water quality issues, among other things. One of the things that can do the best for it would be implementing low-impact development. And I have a thing in my hand here where the city of Burien, it's called Low-Impact Development Implementation Framework. It talks about how to do that step by step, what needs to be changed. Dated, where was it? 2008. To my knowledge, nothing's been done. So the question to Bob is, do you support an LID program, and if so, what's happening? And to Holly, do you support such a program?
Hey, thank you. Yes, I do support that. It is on the books as a recommended but not mandatory for businesses, and it's even less mandatory for residential building. But I would encourage people to consider stormwater runoff and the issues that would help keep the water on site. And if you notice, some of the sidewalks around the transit center are impervious concrete, and some of those new places are starting to implement some of that, but that's voluntary. It's not mandatory, partially because of the cost.
I would support it, and I would support looking into making some of the provisions more mandatory.
Any other questions?
I would also like to follow up that there's also a program called 1,000 Rain Gardens, where people in neighborhoods can join together and develop rain gardens to help control stormwater on their own properties. So that's something that I would encourage people to consider considering also.
So I want to take and sort of leapfrog off of what the previous gentleman said, and that is, what experience do you have and what work have you done in the city about environmental issues? What have you done in terms of going to advisory board meetings on this, going to council meetings on it, getting involved in the master plans on these issues? Environmental issues are very important. They are critical to the issue of climate change. One of the things that we know is that increased amounts of impervious surface in a city raise the temperature in that city anywhere from 14 to 17 degrees Fahrenheit. So could you please talk about your experience and your knowledge about environmental issues?
Well, honestly, I don't have any direct experience, so, but I am willing to learn more about it. I think everything I do is probably on a more personal level, and I don't think that I have any direct experience with that with regard to the city.
Before I joined the council, I worked with the neighbors of Seahurst Park, and that was to work with the developer to make sure that they were observant of the critical steep slopes areas, and that they also end up developing, they haven't developed yet, but when they develop, to protect the wetlands that are in Seahurst Park. I spent a number of opportunities speaking before the council, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, on this topic. Even earlier in the 80s, I was on the group that was working to to convert Salmon Creek Greenbelt into a open space for forever, essentially, and that it was at the King County level when the city incorporated. They got ownership of that. It's now called the Salmon Creek Ravine. I worked on the critical areas ordinance for a number of years for the city. Before I came on the council, I was also involved with the Shoreline Master Program in developing the master plan. So I've been involved with a lot of environmental issues.
There is a place called Eagle Landing Park, and it's got stairs. And I don't almost hate to bring this up. The stairs, I don't know, I think they've taken part of it away now. But I got a call yesterday from someone who said that there was 2 people trying to climb down there under the park. They're going to get hurt. Well, the city has posted a sign, but is there a conclusion to this, Bob?
I think the conclusion was provided before the city even decided to build the stairs the first time, and that was you can't fight Mother Nature. I think it's gone through 2 or 3 attempts to try to rebuild them. One of the big challenges is trying to get permission from the Department of Ecology to even work in the shoreline area. So the city, based on safety issues, had decided to not fight Mother Nature and to remove those current stairs so that they don't cause any damage to those people who feel the need to walk over the barricade and walk in that area.
It's my understanding that there would have to be aside from structural engineering issues and oceanic engineering and marine condition engineering experts and environmental impacts and working with all those, the Department of Ecology, that it's almost too expensive to build those stairs. It's not really something that is a feasible option at this point. I would love to see them either completely removed so that it wouldn't be a hazard to children and other adults that seem to think that they want to climb on them. But I don't know if that's feasible at this point either.
Isn't the stairs go down to a landing, is that still okay?
Exercise it outside.
I believe the path went down to a landing, and then the stairs went down to another landing, but at a certain point, the bottom 2 sections of the stairs start pulling away from a stable portion of the stairs, and they've closed the bottom 2 portions at that point.
Basic problem is it's just a sand dune.
But you can't fight Mother Nature as far as the wave action at the bottom. You can't fight Mother Nature on steep slopes. It wants to slide downhill.
Any other questions?
We've had candidates come before us this time. Can you hear me?
No.
Right.
Okay, we've had candidates come before us at the 2 previous forums, and we have had candidates in the past who have promised everybody in the city that they're going to have a sidewalk, and that this is something that is their God-given right that they should have a sidewalk. I would like to hear what you have to say on this issue of sidewalks.
I believe sidewalks are important in areas where we have schools and children walking, but generally, sidewalks are bad for the environment. They destroy the way the rainwater absorbs into the earth, and so we need to preserve some of our neighborhoods without sidewalks and focus on allowing the environmental, to lessen the environmental impacts. I don't think that we can have sidewalks everywhere. We just need to make sure that the places where our children are walking have sidewalks so that they're safe when they walk home from schools and that sort of thing.
People who have been to England know that they don't have sidewalks, they have crushed gravel, and they can't have a driveway paved. Would that be some kind of a solution to either of you? Go ahead, you have first chance.
Well, I'd like to address the issue about sidewalks. I agree that the Highline School District has what they call the safe paths to school. So if there's a need to put sidewalks in, those are usually the first places. The city of Burien also has a master transportation plan, and they work in conjunction with the Highline School District to also earmark those safe paths to school as primary areas to build sidewalks. New sidewalks are not required everywhere. In fact, there's some parts of the city that it's impossible to put sidewalks in. In 2010, the residents voted down a transportation district benefit to fund sidewalks everywhere. So they are expensive. The majority of the voters at that time did not want sidewalks everywhere. And agreed, they're expensive, they're inappropriate in all places, and they add to the stormwater problem, and the city already doesn't have enough funds to mitigate the current stormwater problems that we have, so we don't need to add to them.
You were asking about gravel walkways. I think that is it's expensive and a more environmentally friendly solution. If people wanted walkways in their neighborhood, and it could be, I think, feasible to put in a gravel walkway as opposed to a sidewalk. I just don't think sidewalks need to be everywhere.
Let's move ahead to the closing comments because we want to get the next forum up, the school board.
I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight, and I just want everyone to remember to vote by November 3rd to make sure that your voice is heard. Have a great evening, you guys.
Well, this is an exciting time for Burien. Town Square, with the addition of Merrill Gardens and the Legacy Apartment Project, has brought a new energy to the city landscape. The innovative stormwater system in the airport impacted Northeast Redevelopment Area, or NERA, has already attracted new development and future new jobs to the city. Recent state and federal monies for road improvements for SR 518 will increase access to NERA. Burien's new magazine, which I helped promote, and the economic development plan will make Burien a quality contender for attracting new businesses, new home buyers, and new visitors to the city. I worked to end further annexation and completed the shoreline master plan. And I will continue to champion the protection of critical areas. Town Square needs to be a vibrant core, attracting more businesses and more visitors, a landmark that we can be proud of. More attention needs to be placed on our neighborhoods that are not just located in the hub area of Burien. Burien needs a community recreation activity center for our youth and residents. Recreation is a component of economic development and provides for a healthier lifestyle. The recent announcement of construction of a $19.4 million health sciences facility at Burien's Puget Sound Skills Center will create great opportunities for students from the Highline and surrounding school districts to develop marketable skills. Burien is finally moving forward economically, and it needs to have stable and dependable leadership on the council to keep that momentum going. I am the council member that provides that committed and passionate leadership for the council, the city, and Burien residents. Again, I would like to express my concern about outside money dominating our elections and what agenda that outside money brings to Burien. My campaign has been supported by Burien residents, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. If you want to stick around, we're going to do a little forum with the Highline School Board contenders, Michael Spear and John Burdine. So we'll start in about 5 minutes, as soon as we can get them up here. Thanks again.